out from Ikemesit Effiong. He's the head of research at SBM Intelligence, an Africa-focused risk consultancy and geopolitical intelligence firm. Welcome, Ikemesit. And I wasn't going to start with this, but I will because we've just mentioned it. Internal resistance. External forces don't seem to be having much effect. Do you think that's the best way forward in terms of restoring democracy, internal pressure?
Well, the internal dynamic has always been the missing link on the ground, right? A lot of the criticism of ECOWAS and Nigeria's efforts at restoring or aiding, Niger's restoration back to constitutional order have been predicated on the fact that it appeared as though a lot of the consensus on the ground in Niger was pro the coup. And now with this new development and with this emerging internal resistance to the pushes in Niamey, right, that added element of a potential resistance from within, right, within Niger, is certainly the kind of break that regional leaders have been looking for, because it does address that legitimacy question as to whether all of the efforts by Nigeria and its regional partners, right, is really supported by facts on the ground. The general thinking has been that democracy as an aim and an ideal in and of itself is all well and good, but what are everyday Nigerians, right, calling for? Right now, that unanimity, right, in favor of the coup, right, has certainly been punctured by these new developments, and so is yet one more layer, right, that policy planners within the region as well as their international partners certainly need to factor in their diplomatic and other in their diplomatic efforts, right, to restore Niger back to democratic.
Yeah, what you're saying yet again ties in with what we're hearing elsewhere, which is that the public generally are in support of this coup. And I wonder, the sanctions that are being imposed, yet more coming from Nigeria now, are they only going to have a harmful effect about changing public opinion? Because obviously they think this is going to put pressure on the junta. But the UN are warning that it could result in a shortage of food and medicines. Now, isn't the average person on the street just going to get angry and blame the country sanctioning them if they feel their lives are getting worse?
Well, the calibration, right, amongst regional planners is that the anger by the ordinary man on the streets would actually be channeled towards the coup plotters, right? Niger wasn't dealing with any form of economic pressure prior to the coup, and certainly the one dynamic that has changed, right, in the entire calculus, right, has been the fact that there's been a violent takeover of the government there in Niamey, which has riled everyone, right? With the exception, obviously, of the coup plotters, as well as some other regional partners. I'm talking here about Mali and Burkina Faso. Some put Guinea right within that midst. But this policy of maximum economic pressure is actually one which has some currency within the region, right? Most people, especially, even here in Nigeria, right, are decidedly against military intervention. Nigeria's partners within the region have been less than enthusiastic about the possibility of militarily intervening in another member state. And so the economic pressure dynamic becomes more palatable, and it's certainly one which Bola Tinubu, Nigeria's president, as well as other regional leaders, can certainly sell right to their home publics as a way of containing right the elements. Remember that the key missing link between what's going on in Niger and what happened in Mali and Burkina Faso from a regional standpoint was the lack, or at least the impression that there wasn't an effective response mechanism towards curtailing right the possibility of military interventions right in the region, and regional leaders are certainly worried of that domino effect, right, that their country or their neighbor could be next, and certainly if your choices are between active military intervention, right, and some form of maximum economic pressure, and there are still layers to economic sanctions that really could be brought to bear, right, even with this new raft of measures. Many people are making a calculation within the region that it's certainly easier to go the economic sanctions route than going through the costly mechanism of armed intervention.
Ikemesit, great to take your opinions and analysis on this. My guest is Ikemesit Effiong, Head of Research at SBM Intelligence. Thank you.